David was a shepherd boy. He spent his days in the fields watching over his father's flock. The sheep were his responsibility, and he took great pride in caring for them. He lived in the land of Israel, a place rich with history and tradition. The rolling hills and vast pastures were his home, and he knew every inch of the land. David was good at taking care of sheep. He knew how to lead them to green pastures and still waters. He protected them from wild animals and kept them safe. He was brave and strong. He trusted in God. With his sling, he could defend his flock from any danger. His faith gave him courage and strength beyond his years.
One day, David's father asked him to visit his brothers. They were away from home, serving as soldiers in the Israelite army. They were soldiers in the Israelite army, fighting to protect their land and people. The army was engaged in a fierce battle against the Philistines, a formidable enemy. The army was fighting a war against the Philistines. The tension was high, and the outcome of the battle was uncertain. David took food to his brothers. He carried bread, cheese, and other provisions to sustain them during the conflict. He wanted to make sure they were safe. His heart was filled with concern for their well-being, and he hoped to bring them comfort and encouragement. He knew God would protect them. David's faith was unwavering, and he believed that with God's help, his brothers would return home safely. The Israelites and the Philistines were enemies. They were fighting for control of the land. The two armies faced each other on opposite sides of a valley. The Philistines had a giant warrior named Goliath. He was very tall and strong. He wore heavy armor and carried a huge spear. Every day, Goliath came out and shouted to the Israelites. He challenged them to send a soldier to fight him. Goliath's voice boomed across the valley, shaking the very ground beneath the soldiers' feet.
Choose a man to fight me. I dare you to send your best warrior. If he wins, we will be your slaves. We will serve you and your people. But if I win, you will be our slaves. You will bow down to us and serve us forever.
The Israelites were afraid. They had never faced such a terrifying opponent. Goliath was so big and strong. His armor gleamed in the sunlight, and his spear was like a weaver's beam. No one dared to fight him. The soldiers looked at each other, hoping someone else would step forward. Day after day, Goliath repeated his challenge. His voice echoed through the valley, a constant reminder of their fear. The Israelite soldiers trembled with fear. They felt the weight of their helplessness pressing down on them.
David's brothers were also afraid. They had trained for battle, but nothing had prepared them for this. They had never seen anyone as big as Goliath. They felt helpless, their courage drained by the sight of the giant. But amidst the fear, a young shepherd named David arrived at the battlefield, his heart filled with determination. He listened to the soldiers' tales of Goliath and felt a fire ignite within him. He knew he had to do something. David looked at Goliath and saw not an insurmountable obstacle, but a challenge that he was ready to face.
David listened to Goliath's challenge with growing anger. How dare this giant defy the armies of the living God? David knew he had to do something.
I will fight Goliath.
King Saul was surprised.
You are just a boy. Goliath is a mighty warrior.
God saved me from lions and bears. God will save me from Goliath.
King Saul offered David his armor, hoping to protect him in the upcoming battle against the giant Goliath. But the armor was too big and heavy for David. He struggled to move, feeling weighed down by the unfamiliar gear. David felt more comfortable in his simple clothes, carrying his shepherd's staff and sling. These were the tools he had always relied on while tending his father's sheep. Determined and focused, David went to a nearby stream. He carefully chose 5 smooth stones, each one fitting perfectly in his hand. He placed the stones in his shepherd's bag, feeling a sense of readiness and calm. These stones, along with his faith, were all he needed. David paused to pray, seeking guidance and strength from God. He knew that his faith would guide his hand and give him the courage he needed. With unwavering determination, David walked towards Goliath unafraid and resolute. Each step he took was filled with confidence and trust in the Lord. Goliath laughed when he saw the young shepherd boy approaching. The giant warrior was amused by the sight of David, thinking him to be no threat.
Am I a dog that you come at me with a stick? Goliath roared, his voice filled with disdain and anger.
You come against me with sword and spear, David replied, his voice steady and strong. But I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, David declared, his faith shining brightly. He knew that with God's help, he could overcome any obstacle, even a giant like Goliath.